UFO Reporting Center?
Yes, I'm calling from the state of Michigan.
Yes.
On 2/4 of 93, approximately between the hours of 5:30 a.m. and 7:30 a.m., we had some Star Wars activity of some sort going on over the state capital of Lansing, Michigan.
Uh-huh.
My boss also witnessed this as we were driving down the road in our vehicles and all, and the objects were two different shapes and sizes. One was triangular shaped, and the back of it was kind of convex, and it had double rows of lighting on it, and it had two almost like car headlights on the front with a red light on the bottom of it that was not flashing or continually flashing at all. It just stayed continuous red. And then the other smaller objects were round cylindrical shaped, kind of hanging down like in suspension, as would be these hot air balloons or something like that.
Yes.
With extremely bright white lights on them. Two of the triangular-shaped objects were heading westbound. One of them turned back heading east and disappeared in the eastern horizon. But in the meantime, it shot back something in the direction of these other two suspended objects hanging over Lansing, and it had come down like a burning trail of an object that was shot and left a little disintegrating trail behind it. And then the one smaller cylindrical-shaped round object that was there scooted towards the north, just scooted real fast up towards the other object hanging there. The object that was a little bit farther to the north then shot something out which went across the top of the trees and disintegrated across the top of the trees. And of course, as it got closer to the ground and stuff, it left that little burning trail, but it wasn't something that was real high up in the air. These are maybe suspended 200 or 300 feet above the ground. So I says to him, I said, there's some funky stuff going on over here. Maybe we should report this.
Did any of that occur during the daylight hours?
Well, 7 o'clock it started getting light out.
Okay.
So this was just before dawn. And
Okay.
the girl that was with us in the car that was sleeping, she heard us talking and saying stuff about it. But the phenomenal speed of these objects and et cetera was what amazed me. And I've seen things in the past before. Back in 1978, I stood out here out in Marne, Michigan, which is located just outside of Grand Rapids, for an hour and watched some object really phenomenally high in the sky, and I thought, well, it could be a satellite. But approximately every 7 minutes, it circled the globe, heading from south to north.
Yes.
And then from that point, it came back from the north to the south. There was a cloud covering, and behind that cloud covering was an extreme amount of light flashing. It was just like the heat lightning you see sometimes in clouds. But this happened to be like in late November when it's extremely cold out.
Okay.
And the object shot back to the north at that point, and it again circled the globe. And I waited. It was approximately every 5 to 7 minutes, and I thought, there's nothing I know on Earth that goes that fast.
Okay, now how many triangles were there?
There was 3 of them. 2 of them were heading westbound, and the other one, I think, went to the south side of we call it the I-96 Interstate Expressway here in Michigan.
Okay.
And these other objects, I tried to get a signpost. The closest signpost I could find was the one when we were entering Watertown Township.
Okay.
And that was, I thought I'd better grab that one, but I started witnessing these things. It was like 5 minutes to 6, and I continued to watch these items. And then the triangular ones that disappeared to the west, as I said, the one turned around and it came back and it went over the area of Lansing there, and it headed eastbound. And my boss and I watched. It was going so fast that you could just only virtually see like a little pinprick of the red light that was on the bottom of it at a certain point, and then it was gone. But it did leave. It was almost like maybe 30 seconds after it went to a pinprick, that object or whatever it shot out came back and headed towards those other 2 objects suspended over in Lansing. And those may very well have been helicopters or something that they had for traffic control or something there during the day too, but I doubt it.
How many of the spears were there?
These little, they looked like, what they were was like miniature flying saucers, but they had something hanging down underneath them which contained this bright light, extremely bright light. I've never seen a light that bright even at the Silver Dome. And it hung down suspended, and below that yet was the solid red light, the big red light that just hung there, not flashing or anything.
Okay.
And there was 2 of those objects. One of those was a little bit farther. Well, actually, there was 3. There was 3 objects like that also, but one of them kind of went farther to the east, and I didn't see where that one headed, so I thought maybe that one went to the south of the expressway. But I was concerned with just keeping my eyes on the ones that were in front of me Because, you know, with something like that, you always think, oh, well, maybe this is happening, maybe it's not real. Maybe I'm still dreaming, but...
What size, or let me put it this way, were the triangles large or small?
They were large. They were larger than our Piper planes. They were quite large.
Okay.
I would say, if you got them on the ground, I would say that they might be anywhere from 150 maybe to 200 feet at least.
Okay.
You know.
Now, all of those objects moved, is that correct?
All of the objects moved. The cylindrical ones that were hanging there, I call them cylindrical, but they were something like looked like cages hanging down below them with the bright light in them. Those objects I thought would remain stationary, but of course, you know, something like that close to the ground had to be planted there by something, so it had to have been moved into place. Those objects, when that item or object, a triangular one, headed to the east and shot back that whatever it was it shot back, the one closest to the expressway scooted to the north towards the other one, so that they may have ended up maybe only just a couple of 100 yards apart. And while it was scooting to the north after that got shot at like that, the one at the north side shot something out aimed towards whatever that object was that took off in the sky to the east.
Okay.
But, I mean, by then that thing was gone in the horizon. That was already long gone.
Okay, now did any of the triangles or the spheres maneuver sharply?
The only one that scooted sharply was the one that was suspended, and that could have very well been a helicopter, but it just shot straight to the north towards that other one that was suspended, so that could have been a helicopter. But the other ones, I didn't see them turn at the west, but for an object that was flying that low and not going that fast, and for the great width and height of it, we thought that those objects were just more or less floating up there too, until I looked at my boss and I said, you know, I don't think I've ever recalled seeing anything in our air journals about any objects like this before.
Okay.
And that one disappeared into the west because of the rate we were traveling eastbound. And then when it approached and came back again, it had to be going at a phenomenal rate to reach the distance that it did in as short a time as it did when it swung back and came back that way. So, and I saw that when you could see the outline, the gray shape of the outline on that one, and you could see the double row of lights on the back side of it when it was going away from you. The ironic thing is, I had the real weird feeling that this object could have reversed itself and gone in any direction that it wanted to.
Okay.
That it could have gone forward or back in the same manner that you know, like a car backs up.
Now, at any time did you see the small spheres merge with or being launched from the triangles?
Okay, when that triangle, the one that I saw heading to the east, mounted higher into the sky as it was first leaving, there was little teeny pinpricks of light around it. I thought, well, maybe there's somebody firing at it, or maybe it's just something in the atmosphere that, you know, like a combustible gas or something being released from it that's just setting off those little shooting objects. But it looked like there were little teeny bubbles of light around it that were just flashing on and off consistently right immediately around it, and then it was right at that point that it suddenly just took off to the east and disappeared.
Okay.
So it was kind of weird. It was kind of interesting.
And where did you get our number?
I called through the government agency. They started with the Defense Department, and I got a number here, a 1-800 number, and through that one I was told by the operator, Center of UFO Studies and Research in Chicago, and then he also looked up another number, which was yours, National UFO Reporting Center in Washington. He was trying to get me NASA.
Oh, okay.
And he couldn't find NASA's number, and I don't have it. Do you have that?
No, but they would have given you our number anyway.
Okay. All right, that'll work.
Well, do you want your name held confidential over this?
It doesn't matter.
Now, what city were you near when this started?
Waterton Township is what we were entering, and we were down by the state capital of Lansing, and this was all more or less taking place right within the boundaries of that Lansing area.
Okay.
Once we passed the Grand River Avenue exit and started swinging to the south, because the highway kind of bends around to the south of the city there and all, I just figured that the low ones suspended there might have just been those helicopters, you know, but even helicopters move.
Yes.
You know, and they're not, I've never seen lights that bright on anything like that. And at first I thought it was some of those towers that people have, you know, the shortwave towers.
Yes.
Where they put them bright lights on, but I've never seen lights that bright.
Okay.
And they weren't moving. They were just suspended. They weren't moving, which is, kind of a weird situation. That's why I thought they were just towers. That's why I got the impression that they were like cylindrical and had the metal hanging down off them.
Okay.
Because whatever that was attached to, it had the bright light was coming from like the center part of it. It looked just like it was some kind of a cage of sorts. So, well, I thought it was interesting, and I'm going to keep my eyes peeled. But everybody in the car said, well, this goes on all the time. You just got to stay up between 3 and 5 in the morning. And I said, I've done that on occasion before, but,
Okay, thanks again.
All righty. Yep.
Bye-bye.
I'm in Oklahoma.
Yes.
I'm a commercial pilot. I just landed at Boise City Municipal.
Yes, sir.
And there was myself and another civil aircraft. We spotted something in the vicinity of Clayton, New Mexico.
Yes.
No position lights, no strobe lights, no rotating beacons, but steady light alternating. Seemed to go from white to orange, and this thing was flying somewhere between 500, well under 1,000 feet, I'm sure, near Clayton, and then maneuvered a bit and moving slowly, and then went off to the north of Clayton, New Mexico, descending, and then just out of sight.
Okay. Now, was this something large or small?
That's kind of hard to say. It would have had to have been pretty fair size, because we were both about probably around 35 nautical miles as close as we would have been. And
Okay.
it's just a snappy, clear night here tonight. And both of us are commercial pilots.
Okay.
And the other fellow's standing right here. And this thing here, we didn't see any violent maneuvers, anything up and down, or, radical, quick direction changes or anything like that. And the attitude appeared to be more or less level for just a few minutes, and then a gradual descent.
Okay.
A northerly heading.
Okay. Did it have any type of specific outline?
No, sir, we weren't close enough to see any outline of it at all.
Okay.
And as a matter of fact, if it hadn't have just went completely out of sight, at the speed it was traveling, we could have easily overtaken it with the type of aircraft that we were both flying. Another reason we didn't go over there is we've got pretty good low-level turbulence here tonight.
Okay.
But,
was this out in front of you at all times?
It was right. It was 90 degrees to us at all times.
Okay.
But you can see the background lights on the ground of Clayton, New Mexico.
Yes.
And you could actually see this thing. You could track its direction of travel.
Okay.
By comparing that with the background lighting.
Okay.
Lights of the city.
What time did that occur?
Okay, 15 minutes ago? Yeah, about 15 minutes ago.
Okay. But it didn't move or change its course while you were flying a straight line?
Yes.
Okay.
Right, it did, right. Yeah, we could see the movement,
Okay.
There was no problem to identify, this thing was in fact in motion.
Okay. How long do you feel you watched it all together?
So, we probably watched it for, 15 minutes or so, maybe a little more.
Okay.
But it was slow moving. There wasn't any speed much about it, and it moved on off to north of the town of Clayton, New Mexico, into an unlighted rural area, and descended at that point, and probably got high terrain between us and it.
Okay. Was it leaving any kind of a trail at all?
Not that we could observe.
Okay. Okay. Where did you get our number?
I got it from the Amarillo Tower.
Okay.
The reason we got it from Amarillo Tower, there were some people. Venus was real bright tonight, and both of us just flew into Amarillo earlier this evening.
Yes.
And some people on the ground had been seeing something out there, and approach control asked us to both look, and we were both in the same airplane going in there, and in the cockpit, and they asked us if we observed anything unusual, and we kind of chuckled back and forth with the coach and told them no, we didn't see any boogers or anything like that. And lo and behold, coming home, in our own airplanes, here we see something.
Okay. Now, what city was that in where they were seeing things?
That was reported at Amarillo.
Okay.
The Amarillo Tower had asked us, or Amarillo Approach Control, there at the tower at the International Airport. So we were making the approach into Amarillo tonight. Asked us to, if we saw anything.
Okay.
That was about 90 miles south, a little east of where we saw this object.
Okay. Well, we sure appreciate you reporting that. And if we get any follow-up information relating to this, we'll let you know.
All right. You need any information on the other pilot?
No, sir. If we need it, we'll get back to you.
Okay, very good.
Thanks very much. Bye. I wonder if we could get a description of what you saw last night.
Okay, well, my son saw it first. There's 4 of us that saw this.
Yes.
And we're just really frightened. We were coming off of Avenue I. I made a right on to Sierra Boulevard, and
okay.
I passed that area there. It says 45 mile an hour, and just when I got onto the part where you can pick up speed, my son said, "Mom, can aircrafts hover?" And I said, "Michael, be quiet, and stop asking me stupid questions." And then I saw him just staring. He was just staring. And so I looked up, and I saw this cluster of lights. And they were just a bunch of them. And I thought it was like 6 helicopters, Army helicopters, just hovering over the field over there. And then there was this one white light to the right.
Yes.
And it was coming around it, like circling around these little lights all over the place.
Uh-huh.
I immediately pulled over. There was traffic in front of me, behind me. I immediately pulled over to the right shoulder of the road. I left my lights on. I left the vehicle running. The radio was on. And as soon as I pulled over, this object came straight at us, straight to our vehicle. It was huge. This thing was huge. It was black, huge. It had these triangle lights on it. And it just come floating over. It didn't come fast. It came across the road. It floated. It kind of turned to where all you could see then was these triangle lights. All these little tiny lights kind of weren't there anymore. And it was just black. The ceremony was huge. It floated over to us. It started coming down towards the front top of the van and kind of tilted.
Yes.
And then my kids were screaming. They were trying to get out of the van. They wanted out. I just bolted out of there. I thought this thing was going to land on me. And, I mean, we were there long enough that we all got a good look at it. I could count the lights. We were there for at least a half a minute before I left. There was traffic in front of me, behind me. No one slowed down. No one sped up. No one else pulled over. I don't know what we saw, but it was one craft. And we were hysterical. I had each kid explain to me what they saw before I explained to them, and everybody's story was pretty much the same. What we saw, it was kind of like a triangle-y, oval-shaped thing.
Okay.
It was black. It was huge, and the lights were like in a triangle, like 3 lights in each triangle, at like the point of it, like the corners of it, it wasn't really pointed. I don't know how to explain it. And then my daughter said, she stuck her head up to where she could see it as I took off. She said she saw it like it turned upwards, and she saw 3 red lights on one side and 3 red lights on the other. So I didn't see these red lights that she's talking about.
Okay. Now, speaking of the size, do you have any estimate of feet or yards as to how big the object was?
Well, see, when I got to the gate, the guys at the gate, I reported to them because I was really scared, and they thought like the B-2, and I said it had... No, I was thinking it had to be like 4 B-2s or more. It was huge.
Okay.
And it didn't fly. It was just there. It was floating. It didn't move fast at all. It just hovered, just floated.
But at any time did you get out of the car?
No, we didn't. I just took off, and as soon as I took off, my daughter opened that side window and stuck her head up because she wanted to get a picture. And it just disappeared. There was nothing. There was no lights, nothing. And it never made a noise. We didn't feel vibration in the car, nothing.
Okay.
It wasn't making loud engine sounds, nothing. Okay. But it was coming. I felt like I saw it, and it knew I saw it. I have this feeling like it saw me watching it, and it came over to me. Like it came to me, like, oh, there's someone stopped, let's go talk, you know.
Okay, now, do you have any estimate as to how close it got to you?
It seems like it was like if I had a telephone pole sitting on my hood of my car, it was at least that tall, if not maybe another half up higher.
Okay.
I remember I was looking out the front of the glass, and it was the three lights that was closest after it started tilting. It kind of tilted, and those three triangle lights were just glaring on my glasses. I remember that. I remember that real clear.
Did that light reflect on your car at all? Do you remember?
It seems like the light was coming in the front of the van.
Okay.
It seems like it was that close, that it was, or maybe it was just my glasses. I don't know. It was just like, I was really looking out. I wasn't looking down at my feet or at my purse or anything in the car. I was just looking out that windshield at this thing coming down. And I couldn't believe how quickly it came across the street at us. But it wasn't flying, it was floating. It was, and then how it started coming down on us. It didn't keep going or circle around us. It just kept lowering down on us, and then it kind of tilted to where it was at the same like angle as our windshield.
Okay. But did that object, when it tilted, did it change course or just keep going straight?
It just stayed there. It just hung there. It just
stopped?
Like it was, no, it was still coming down like it was coming towards us, so I took off. I thought it was going to land on me. I was scared.
Okay. Was it, I'm trying to get the altitude at that point. Was that eye-level altitude? You were looking straight out the windshield?
No, I was looking up. I was looking up at it. So it was, I don't know, how tall is a night light pole, a telephone
utility poles? Oh, they usually run around 30 feet.
Well, then it was probably, I wanted to say 1.5 of those. It wasn't quite 2. I was thinking it was maybe 2, but now that I think about it, it was really close, and it was right there.
Okay.
But it wasn't to where I could throw a rock and hit or something, you know. It was huge. That's the one thing all of us couldn't get over, is how big this thing was, and it was just hanging there, just floating.
And a solid black in color?
Well, it was kind of like to me, it's like the inside of it kind of was like up and down. It was kind of like folded or something.
Okay.
Like if you took a paper, you know how you make an paper airplane, you fold it in and out, in and out?
Right.
It's kind of like it was almost like crinkly, like that inside maybe. But see, what I was seeing was in the dark, and I was just seeing light reflecting off of pieces. So it looked like light reflecting off of folded something.
Okay.
But the outside of it just looked like bars, connecting where the triangle lights were.
Okay.
First I thought it was just 3 triangle lights connected to bars floating. And then I could see it was pitch black inside, and you could see these areas where the light was hitting.
Okay.
And I'm just really wondering, did anybody else report this? Because I just think I'm losing my mind.
No, I'm sure you're not losing your mind. Other people could have seen it and not reported it at all.
Yeah, I don't see why. You know, I've seen stuff like this on TV, and I say to myself, I don't believe in it, but I believe that those people really believe what they're saying. They're convinced.
Okay, now, how old were your children?
My son, the one that saw it, he'll be 12 next month. He's 11.
Okay.
And my daughter and her girlfriend are both 14.
Okay. And what was your age?
My age is 36.
Could I get your mailing address?
Edwards Air Force Base.
Okay.
California.
Okay, and where did you get our number?
Well, I had to stop the SP gate because I was just shaking. I was just crying, shaking. I couldn't believe it. And they had me there for a good 15 minutes, calling different posts, seeing who was flying, what kind of test patterns, all this. Call radar and see if they'd picked up anything. And then they gave me this number and said that I could call this number and report this to them. They didn't know what else to tell me. So.
Did you, by any chance, sketch the object?
You know what? I had my kids and us, and yes, and we all drew pretty much the same thing.
Okay.
But the cluster of lights out front first, and then this thing in front of the van.
Okay.
But, you know, it was huge. This thing was huge. I couldn't believe how big this thing was, and it was just there.
Okay. Would you talk to one of our representatives if we could get someone in there?
Yeah, I would tell someone, because I think, you know, I would like to know if there's a support group or something, because I'm scared. My kids slept together last night. They were scared. They kept the dog in the room with them. I mean, this is just crazy. I'm walking around the house here with the dog with me in every room.
Okay.
I mean, this is
you
really
don't have anything to be afraid of.
Why? Do these things not come back and visit you or something?
Very, very seldom do people have secondary experiences. Can you account for all of your time on the road and going to and from?
Yes, that's another thing. My girl said that sometimes people lose time. It was about 8:10, and by the time we got to Roseman, it was 8:20. So that would be about 10 minutes. If we maybe even lost a minute, I don't even think, not even a minute. I think we lost no time at all.
Okay.
That's what scared the girls the most. They were thinking this thing had taken us up and done stuff to us, and they were saying, "What time is it? What time is it?" And I said, "It's 8:28. And what time were we there when we saw that, you think?" And I said, "I think it was like 8:15, 8:13, 8:15, maybe 8:10. I don't know, something around that area. I don't think we lost any time."
Okay. Well, hang on to those pictures or the sketches, and we'll see if we can't get somebody to contact you.